At family dinner, I announced my promotion and watched my sister grab her side in pain. Then I played the video I'd recorded 20 minutes earlier. She'll hold the right side and call for mom, and watched her world collapse. I'm Rachel, 28, and I work as a senior fraud investigator at Metropolitan Financial Services, earning $78,000 annually building cases against people who think they can manipulate systems for personal gain. My job involves identifying patterns of deceptive behavior, gathering evidence, and presenting findings that hold up in court. What my family didn't realize was that I'd been unconsciously applying these skills to analyze my sister Emma's behavior for years. Emma was born 2 months premature and spent her first 3 years connected to life support machines. My parents naturally became hyperprotective, and honestly, I understood. She was my chronically ill baby sister, and I genuinely wanted to help care for her. But as Emma got healthier and no longer needed medical intervention, something troubling emerged. She'd learned that being sick guaranteed attention, sympathy, and whatever she wanted. The pattern started when Emma was around 8 years old. Mysterious headaches would appear whenever she had homework, immediately resulting in ice cream and canceled assignments. By the time she turned 11 and I was 16, she had perfected what I now recognize as a sophisticated manipulation system. Her episodes had an uncanny timing that targeted my important moments with surgical precision. When I made varsity soccer, Emma developed mysterious stomach cramps that forced my parents to leave my first game early for an emergency room visit where doctors found nothing wrong. When I got accepted to college, she collapsed during my celebration dinner, turning my achievement into another family crisis. The worst part was watching her smile at me when our parents weren't looking, and I once caught her practicing pain expressions in the bathroom mirror. My professional training in behavioral analysis meant I started documenting patterns unconsciously. Emma always grabbed her right side regardless of what type of pain she claimed. She always called for mom first, never dad. She consistently rated her pain between 8 and 9 on a 10-point scale, never lower, never 10. And she always recovered in exactly 2 to 3 hours, just long enough to completely derail whatever I had planned. The breaking point came when Emma destroyed my relationship with Jake, my boyfriend of 8 months. She created fake screenshots showing text messages where I supposedly called her a faker and wished she would die. Jake confronted me at a coffee shop, sliding his phone across the table to show me the evidence Emma had compiled. He said he couldn't be with someone who treated their sick sister so cruelly. That same day, Emma texted me a selfie wearing the hoodie Jake had given me for our 6-month anniversary. That's when my fraud investigation training kicked into high gear. If Emma could systematically manipulate my family for over a decade, she was operating with the same methodical approach I saw in financial fraudsters. I decided to build a case against her using the same techniques I used professionally to expose white-collar criminals. Over the next 6 months, I gathered evidence with the thoroughness I brought to million-dollar fraud cases. I documented every episode with timestamps, locations, witnesses present, and outcomes. I secretly recorded conversations where Emma coached her friend Beatrice on manipulation techniques, explaining how different types of complaints got different reactions from our parents. Most importantly, I obtained security footage from our high school showing Emma practicing her fainting routine behind the gymnasium before my graduation ceremony. The evidence was overwhelming. Emma had been running a 15-year con on our family, systematically sabotaging my achievements while positioning herself as the victim who deserved constant attention and financial support. My parents had given her over $8,000 in the past year alone for medical expenses and special treatments that she'd spent on clothes, makeup, and entertainment. Last Sunday was our monthly extended family dinner with all the aunts, uncles, and cousins, about 20 people total. I knew this would be Emma's biggest audience and her most tempting target if I gave her the right opportunity. 20 minutes before dinner, I went upstairs and recorded a video on my phone, speaking directly to the camera. It's on Sunday evening. In exactly 20 minutes, I'm going to make a fake announcement about getting a promotion at work. When I do this, Emma will wait for the applause to die down, then grab the right side of her body and whimper for Mom. She'll rate her pain as 8 or 9 out of 10, ask to lie down immediately, and suggest going to the hospital if the pain doesn't improve in the next 20 minutes. She always grabs the right side, no matter what type of pain she claims. At dinner, I stood up and clinked my wine glass to get everyone's attention. I have incredible news to share. I just got promoted to senior lead investigator with a $15,000 raise and my own team. The announcement was completely fabricated, but the family's reaction was exactly what I'd expected. Everyone erupted in applause and congratulations. Uncle Roberto joked about me becoming the rich niece of the family. Grandma immediately started planning how I could help with her medication costs. My mother had tears of pride in her eyes as cousins hugged me and uncles patted my back. The sound of celebration filled the dining room, and for those few moments, I was genuinely enjoying being the center of positive family attention. But my eyes were fixed on Emma at the far end of the table. She was sitting between my cousin Marcus and Aunt Sandra, absently playing with her mashed potatoes. For a brief moment, she almost seemed genuinely happy for me. Almost. But I knew her too well, and I watched her expression shift as she realized all attention was focused on me, that people were genuinely excited about my success. First, she stopped eating, letting her fork drop onto her plate with a soft clink. When Aunt Sandra asked if she was okay, Emma shook her head with that practiced smile she used when trying to appear brave despite suffering. I continued discussing my fake promotion details with Uncle Pedro, but part of my mind was timing Emma's performance like a stopwatch. 3, 2, 1. Like clockwork, she brought her hand to the right side of her abdomen. Her first moan was almost inaudible, mixing with the dinner conversation noise, but Emma knew exactly how to project her voice, so it seemed like she was trying to hide something while ensuring people noticed. "Emma, everything okay there?" Marcus asked, leaning toward her with concern. "It's nothing," she murmured, loud enough for half the table to hear. Her voice carried that specific tone of brave vulnerability that always melted hearts. "Just a little pain." I watched the family dynamic shift in real time. Conversations lowered in volume as glances gradually turned toward Emma. My promotion announcement, which had been the center of attention moments earlier, began fading into background noise as automatic family concern activated around my sister. "What kind of pain, dear? Where does it hurt?" Aunt Sandra asked, immediately abandoning her conversation about politics with Grandpa. Emma curved slightly in her chair, a perfectly calculated performance. Not too dramatic, which would seem fake, but just enough to show genuine discomfort. "It's here on the right side," she said, pressing her hand against her body. "It came out of nowhere." This was the moment I'd been waiting for, watching Emma execute the exact script I'd predicted in my video 20 minutes earlier. Mom, who had been laughing at Uncle Carlos's story, stopped mid-laugh as that familiar expression of maternal panic took over her face. "Emma, what happened, sweetheart?" She was already halfway out of her chair, napkin falling to the floor. Emma raised her eyes to Mom first, exactly as I'd documented in her pattern analysis. "Mom, it's hurting quite a bit," she whispered with just the right amount of voice tremor. Dad immediately went into problem-solving mode, asking about the type of pain while already reaching for car keys. "On a scale of 1 to 10, Dad asked, and I almost laughed at how predictably this was playing out. This question had become a sacred ritual in our family over the years. Emma paused as if genuinely evaluating the intensity, another brilliant touch that made her seem authentic. "It's an 8, she said weakly, maybe 9. Of course it was. Never less than 8, never 10. Always between 8 and 9, alarming enough to mobilize the family, but not so extreme as to raise suspicions. I watched the entire family reorganize around Emma's crisis. Aunt Sandra started sharing her kidney stone experience. Grandma murmured about how much the poor girl had suffered. Cousin Julia suggested it might be appendicitis. My promotion had become a forgotten memory in less than 5 minutes. Emma brought her second hand to support the first, adding theatrical reinforcement. "Mom, I think I need to lie down," she whispered, but loud enough for everyone to hear. And then she made the mistake that sealed her fate. She looked directly at me for just a second when she was sure no one else was watching. And she smiled. That small, satisfied smile of someone who had just scored a perfect goal. "Maybe we should take her to the hospital," Mom said, standing completely now. "Sandra, can you drive? I'm too nervous." Everyone began preparing to transform my celebration into another emergency room vigil where doctors would run tests that showed nothing wrong. But this time, instead of grabbing my purse, I grabbed my phone. "Wait," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "Before we go running to the hospital, there's something you all need to see." Emma looked at me with the first hint of suspicion I'd ever seen cross her face during a performance. But she was too committed to the act to stop now. "Rachel, this isn't the time," she said, voice still weak and suffering. "I'm in real pain." "I know exactly how much pain you're feeling," I replied, unlocking my phone. "And I know exactly when it's going to pass." Aunt Sandra frowned in confusion as I held my phone in the air, finger hovering over the play button. "I recorded a video 20 minutes ago. You're all going to want to watch this." Emma went completely still, her hand frozen on her right side, expression still showing pain, but something had fundamentally changed. She'd realized the ground was shifting beneath her feet. "What video?" Mom asked, torn between concern for Emma and curiosity about my behavior. I looked directly at Emma, watching the exact moment she understood something was terribly wrong. Her eyes widened slightly, but she couldn't abandon the performance now, not in front of the entire family. "A video that's going to explain everything," I said, and pressed play. My voice came through the phone speaker, clear and professional. "It's on Sunday. In 20 minutes, I'm going to make a false announcement about a promotion at work during family dinner. When I do this, Emma will wait for the applause to finish, then grab the right side of her body and call for Mom. She'll rate the pain as 8 or 9, ask to lie down, and suggest going to the hospital in exactly 15 minutes. The silence was so complete I could hear the wall clock ticking. All eyes turned to Emma, who had become completely petrified, her hand still glued to her right side as if it had adhered there permanently. My recorded voice continued mercilessly. "She always holds the right side, no matter what type of pain she claims. Head, stomach, kidney, always the right side. She always calls specifically for Mom first, never Dad. And she always recovers in 2 to 3 hours, just enough time to ruin any important moment of mine." Grandma found her voice first. "Emma, is this true?" Emma tried to recover, but I could see panic growing in her eyes. "I don't know what Rachel is talking about," she stammered, attempting to return to her suffering tone. "I'm really in pain. Don't you believe me?" "I'm not done yet," I said, pausing the first video. "That was just the preview." I navigated to the evidence folder I'd been building for months. "Do you want to see what really happened at my high school graduation?" "Rachel, stop this," Emma whispered, but her voice had lost all theatrical fragility. Now it sounded sharp, almost threatening. I played the next video, security footage from the school, showing Emma in the side hallway 5 minutes before the ceremony. She was completely alone, checking her phone, then suddenly putting it away and looking around to ensure no one was watching. There, alone in the hallway, my sister began rehearsing expressions of pain. She frowned, brought her hand to different parts of her body, made various grimaces using the window's reflection. She was literally practicing which performance would be most convincing, testing different levels of dramatic intensity. "My God," Aunt Sandra murmured, her hand flying to cover her mouth. "Wait, there's more," I said, moving to the next file. "Remember when Jake broke up with me because he thought I was cruel to my sick sister?" Emma went pale. "Rachel, don't." But I was already showing the screenshots I'd recovered from her phone backup through my tech contacts at work. "These are the original messages she sent to Jake, pretending to be me. Look at the dates and timestamps. She waited for me to leave the house, used my computer to create fake accounts, and sent horrible messages in my writing style. Dad took my phone with trembling hands, reading message after message. His expression darkened with each line as he saw the cruel things Emma had written about herself, pretending to be me, things I would never think, let alone type. She researched my class schedule to know when I wouldn't be home, I continued. Created a fake Facebook profile using my photos, added Jake as a friend, and systematically destroyed our relationship by making him think I was sociopathic. Emma, Mom said, her voice breaking. This can't be true. But I moved to the next piece of evidence, an audio recording I'd made the previous month of Emma coaching her friend Beatrice on manipulation techniques. Emma's voice came through clearly. It's really easy, B. You just need to know the right pressure points. Mom gets desperate if I say it's a headache on the right side, but if I say stomach pain, she takes longer to react. And it always works better when Rachel is having a good day. Then everyone feels sorry for me and gets irritated with her for being insensitive. Beatrice laughed in the recording. You're terrible, Emma, but your sister really is kind of annoying anyway. She thinks she's better than everyone. Emma's response was the most damaging. She was always the favorite, always had everything easy. At least when I fake being sick, I get attention too. And it's fun watching her get frustrated. The silence that followed was deadly. Emma was white as paper, trembling with real fear for the first time. Emma, Grandma said, her voice heavy with disappointment that cut through the air, how could you? There's more, I said relentlessly. Do you want to see the video of her practicing her fainting routine before my 18th birthday party? This time, Emma tried to stand, probably to flee, but Uncle Roberto gently held her shoulders. Stay there, Emma. You need to hear all of this. I played footage showing Emma in our backyard, hidden behind the barbecue grill 10 minutes before making her dramatic entrance at my birthday party. She was testing different ways to faint on the grass, checking which angle would be most convincing and least dangerous. She practiced for 15 minutes, testing falling sideways, forward and backward, ultimately choosing the side fall because the grass was softer. This is sick, Cousin Carla said, making a sound between shocked laughter and disbelief. It's not sick, I replied, finally putting my phone away. It's calculated, systematic. She turned manipulation into performance art. Emma finally exploded. Okay, fine. Yes, I faked some of it, but you don't understand. The tears started rolling, but these were different. Tears of anger, frustration, someone caught red-handed after years of successful deception. You don't understand what it's like being perfect Rachel's sister, Rachel the smart one, Rachel the achiever, Rachel who never does anything wrong. Do you know what it's like growing up in her shadow? Her voice was raw with genuine emotion, but it was the wrong emotion at the worst possible time. So you decided to sabotage me, I replied coldly, destroy my relationships, ruin my important moments, make everyone think I'm cruel and insensitive to my suffering sister. The room watched this confrontation like a tennis match, heads turning between us. Because you had everything, Emma screamed, all pretense abandoned. You always had everything. And me? I was just the sister who almost died as a baby. The only time anyone paid attention to me was when I was sick. But you weren't sick, Dad said, his voice low but loaded with profound disappointment. You were lying for years and destroying your sister's life in the process, Mom added through tears. Emma, how could you be so deliberately cruel? Cruel? Emma laughed bitterly. You want to know what's cruel? Growing up watching your sister get congratulated for breathing while you need to almost die for anyone to notice you exist. You were never almost dying, I exploded. At least not in the last 10 years. You were acting, manipulating, systematically lying to everyone who loved you. Because it worked, she screamed back, because it was the only thing that worked. Uncle Roberto started to stand, clearly uncomfortable, but I stopped him. No, stay, everyone, because there's one more thing. Emma looked at me with pure terror. Please tell them about the money, I said, my voice sharp as a blade. What money? Mom asked. Emma remained silent, but her expression was confession enough. The money you gave her for expensive medications, I continued. Those prescriptions the doctors supposedly gave her that insurance wouldn't cover. Dad went livid. Emma, tell me you didn't. I pulled out bank statements and Instagram screenshots. She spent it on makeup, clothes, concerts, restaurants. You gave her over $8,000 in the past year alone for medicine she never needed because she was never actually sick. $8,000? Grandma repeated, incredulous. That she spent on everything except medicine, I confirmed, because she didn't need any medicine, because she was never sick. Emma began sobbing, but this time no one moved to comfort her. An invisible barrier had formed around her as the family processed the magnitude of her deception. 15 years, Mom whispered. 15 years of believing, worrying, canceling plans, losing sleep. And I lost 15 years of my life being treated as the cruel, insensitive sister, I added. 15 years watching my achievements get destroyed. 15 years being blamed for not having enough patience with my supposedly sick sister. Emma raised her tear-stained face. Rachel, I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. But her apology fell flat after the overwhelming evidence of calculated manipulation. Now you're sorry, I said. Now that you've been caught with professional-grade evidence, now that everyone knows what you really are. I looked around the table at my family's shocked faces. You all know now. You know what kind of person she really is, what she's done to us for years. Emma tried to stand again, but Mom held her arm. No, Mom said, her voice firmer than I'd heard in years. You're going to stay here. You're going to face what you've done. That's when I knew I'd succeeded. This wasn't just about exposure. This was about justice, about finally having the truth acknowledged after years of being painted as the villain in her victim narrative. 2 weeks later, Emma moved out of our parents' house after they implemented strict accountability measures, including therapy requirements and financial oversight. My family began reaching out to repair our relationship, finally understanding how much damage Emma's manipulation had caused. 6 months later, I received a genuine promotion at work, partly because my systematic approach to exposing Emma's fraud had impressed my supervisors when I shared the methodology. Emma, meanwhile, was working at a retail job and living with roommates, finally experiencing the consequences of her actions without family protection. The most satisfying outcome was realizing I was free from her shadow. For the first time in 15 years, I could celebrate achievements without waiting for the other shoe to drop, could build relationships without manipulation sabotage, and could finally be seen by my family for who I actually was, rather than who Emma had painted me to be. Sometimes the most powerful response to systematic manipulation isn't emotional confrontation, but methodical exposure using the same professional standards you'd apply to any other fraud case.